special and Cardi B is the role model for 12-year-old girls. There's rappers pushing Xanax at the top of the billboard, but if I mention race in a song, I'm scared I'll get killed for it. It's backwards, it's getting exponentially dumb. It's more difficult to get a job than purchase a gun. Eminem used to gay bash and murder his mom, and now he doesn't want fans if they voted for Trump. We're ashamed to be American. You should probably love it, cause you have the right to hate it and not get stoned to death in public. As children, we were taught how to walk and talk, but the system wants adults to sit down and shut up. Cancel culture runs the world now, the planet went crazy. Label everything we say as homophobic or racist. If you're white, then you're privileged, guilty by association. All our childhood heroes got me too, or they're rapists. They never freed the slaves. They realized that they don't need to change. They gave us tiny screens, we think we free because we can't see the cage. They knew that race war would be the game they need to play. For people to big teams, they use the media to feed the flame. They so fake woke. Facts don't care about feelings. They know they won't tell me what to believe in. They so fake woke. Same old safe songs. They so fake woke. Facts don't care about your feelings. It's crazy how these people screaming facts, but they fake woke. Hate their neighbor cause he wears a mask or he stays home. Has a daughter, but his favorite artist said he slays hoes. Picks her up from school, music slaps on the way home. Censorship's an issue cause they choose what they erase. There's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate. I think Black Lives Matter was the stupidest name, when the system's screwing everyone exactly the same. I just want to spend Thanksgiving Day with food in my family, without being accused of celebrating native casualties. We got so divided, it's black and white and political. Republicans are bigots, libtards if you're liberal. There's riots in our streets and it's just getting worse. Y'all screaming deep on the police, y'all are genius for sure. They're underfunded already, they're way too busy to work. Order food and call the cops, see what reaches you first. Segregation ended, that's a lie in itself. That was a strategy to make us think they were trying to help. They knew that racism was hot if they designed it to sell. We buy up every single box and divide us ourselves. They so fake woke. Facts don't care about feelings. They know they won't tell me what to believe in. They so fake woke. Same old safe songs. They so fake woke. Facts.
All right. Yep. Can you hear me, Lone Wolf? All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach Lone Wolf, and yeah, I kind of changed it up. I found a rapper I actually like, Lone Wolf, so that's why we had a little bit different music going.
Oh, okay, all right, sure.
A little controversial. He's a little controversial, but
okay.
You know, I like the songs that they make sense. So that's what that was. All right. So, to be honest, I only have a couple of topics myself. I know you have some that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, particular things.
You probably know more about those than I do, because I guess
just doing a little research on a couple of things beforehand. I just kind of wanted to talk about them. So yeah.
Talk about the MLB here.
Sure.
And the Fernando Tatis contract. We'll start there because the MLB is still a little bit away. So,
I mean, I think the first thing I want to say about it is, this is not unusual, I don't think, for baseball. You know, I think people see the numbers and then they're like, oh my God, look at this contract. But that's the first thing I'll say about it, because baseball has had these kind of contracts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, the Pujols contract, I think, might have been one of those that was people kind of got bent out of shape about because it was kind of crazy. But, you know, Alex Rodriguez, I mean, Mike Trout, I mean, a lot of these guys have had contracts that you look at and you say, holy crap.
Yeah.
So this is kind of in the long line of contracts of baseball. You know, and that makes sense from that standpoint. But this contract, I mean, he's 22. He's played only 143 games. People are trying to say he's going to be the new face of baseball. He's the young hot star, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't done anything yet. I mean, he's played well. I mean, it's not like he's horrible, but to earn 14 years and $340 million. I mean, that's, we've had a theme on this show. I think we've talked about, one hit wonder kind of stuff. One guy goes out and he plays well in 1 year, and all of a sudden everybody expects him to be an MVP every single year. And, and they talk about him as if he is already, but he hasn't proved anything. So here we are with a club that, they're not bad, but they certainly aren't winning World Series titles. And you give a guy like him this kind of money, I don't know. And they say, well, I hope this money doesn't change him as a person. If I were 22 years old and I had $340 million, I'm pretty sure it would have changed me as a person. Just saying.
Well, and the curious thing is because usually baseball contracts are fully guaranteed.
Right.
If this is a fully guaranteed contract, he's changing as a person.
Oh yeah, no question.
There's no question about it. And we wonder why we have so many issues with, so let's just say celebrity type figures, and that's athletes, musicians, all those people doing kind of whatever they want and not expecting anything negative to happen. Well, when you have this much money, I'm sorry, yeah, I would kind of think that I could do whatever I wanted.
Right, just kind of play your way out of your problems, right?
Right. Teams can do what they want to do, but baseball they need to be very, very wary of these types of contracts.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be in a financial bind here for the next 5 to 10 years. People are not going to come back to the sport. I think like they believe they will, because they had issues with COVID last year and couldn't get it under control. I see baseball being the first sport to fully open up their stadiums, and then it just becomes a circus.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable that you do this. But I guess the owner has to. I would assume they got approval from the owner to spend that much money on one guy.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And if the owner wants to do it, I just don't see. Again, this isn't like baseball's not like basketball, where one guy can get you a world championship. I mean, even in basketball, you need more than one. We're seeing this, and we'll get to the Bucks in a few minutes.
Right.
But you can't tell me they have that much more money to spend.
No, and I believe they have, along with him, they have some other contracts where they have a ton of money tied up in just a couple people, and you're basically saying, okay, those guys are the ones who are going to bring us a title. Now, I mean, you need to have stars on your team, obviously, to win, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Baseball is not like that. You can't just have one guy that you give a bunch of money to and say, okay, this one guy is going to win us a title. With baseball, you need good pitching or great pitching. And the last time I checked, he doesn't play that position on the field. So,
Right.
I mean, he's not going out there and getting you a bunch of strikeouts. And if he is, then he's not doing his job. So this is not working from that standpoint. And it just never really seems to me to be the smart move. I think a lot of other owners, too, from what I read in a lot of different articles on this subject, didn't really appreciate this. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on other clubs because players and then greedy agents will say, well, look at this guy. Look at his contract. Look at what he's done. Let's push the envelope. I'm better than him. I want a better contract than that. And that contract is already insane as it is, especially like you said, and I didn't check this. Is it all guaranteed money? If it is, wow.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find that out here.
Yeah.
Everything.
Even if it's not, though, you look at it, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different clauses in a contract like this. 14 years is a really long time for a contract.
He's not playing that whole 14 years
No,
in San Diego.
he's not.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
14 years in one city. No, I don't see it happening. Yeah, I remember reading this article and I just was like, holy cow. And I went past it because I was like, yeah, it's baseball. This isn't like, out of the norm. It's not like it's never happened before.
Mhm.
But
Well,
yeah,
it looks like so we've got somebody that wanted to talk about the Blue Jays. That was not originally something that we had on our agenda, but I have heard about them potentially moving to Buffalo. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but what are your thoughts about that, Coach? And
well,
do you think that's good, bad? I mean, what do you think?
and I don't know if they would permanently move. I don't. It's kind of like the Raptors right now that the Raptors are playing in a temporary home because Canada won't allow them to play in their home stadium. So I think that's the same thing with the Blue Jays. So they're gonna have to find a home for the season, I think. And why not Buffalo? It's close by. Buffalo is a great sports city.
Right.
They love sports there. And if it works, and Canada is going to continue to be like this, why not move? I mean, I have no qualms with owners moving teams if where they are currently stationed, or wherever, however you want to say it, isn't treating them how they see fairly. And I get it. Fans get upset. Like, everybody keeps coming back to when the Browns moved to Baltimore.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, sneaking out in the middle of the night. Yeah, I didn't like that too much. But moving the team, I was okay with that. They weren't helping get a new stadium. And then after they
that'll
moved,
happen. Yeah.
after they left, oh, we'll give you money for a new stadium. Well, it's too late now.
It's too late now. Yeah, you had your chance.
It's kind of like you start you marry somebody and you find out that they got all sorts of issues. Well, your options are limited.
Right. Right.
So, so when people get upset with teams, clubs moving, why? It's a business for the owner. It's a business.
It is. Yeah.
And
according to what I see here, so the listener was telling us it looks like they're going to actually start in Florida for the regular season. So I don't know what that's going to mean for them long term, but they're going to start off playing in Florida.
Right, and the reason for that is that, I mean, it makes sense because the weather's going to be better down there, so the chances of canceled games is a lot less.
Yeah, Buffalo has rough weather sometimes. Yeah,
and depending on what science you believe, warmer weather is supposed to limit the spread of COVID. So, it makes sense that the Raptors are already down there. So, and I want to say that the ownership groups are tied with the two clubs in some way. So they probably made a deal with wherever the Raptors are to play. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't follow baseball too much because, I mean, you just look at these. I mean, I'm looking at these contracts lately.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Trout, $426.5 million. Mookie Betts 365, Tatis 340, Bryce Harper 330. Then you go back to Stanton, who back in 2014 at 325, and Garrett Cole, who I don't even know who that is 324 million. And then Manny Machado, 300 million. I mean, this is ridiculous. This money
really
is ridiculous. Yeah. And baseball owners, we're losing money. Well, I wonder why.
Well, I think the problem is with some of these is yeah, I don't know. Having some issues getting the call in. I'm not sure how or why. Do you know, Coach, if somebody wants to call in or?
Well, I mean, we really. It depends what we're talking about, because we're shortly going to be moving on here from Major League Baseball.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah, if we have a brief call, we could talk about it. But yeah, we were going to jump to another story in a second here, but.
Because I'm not reading our chat right now. I'm
okay, I got you. Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on in the chat. So that's something you need to tell me. And
yeah. We can go until we can go to a different one too. And so I was just gonna say, from baseball, we talked about some of the contracts. Like I said, we were gonna kind of jump to another sport, but we could talk about that. So I think we were gonna talk about the NBA next.
Right. You want to bring up the Bucks on the slide? It looks like they're going to lose again tonight to the Raptors again.
Yep. This will be 5 games in a row for them.
They've lost 5 in a row now.
It was 4. I'm pretty sure this is the 5th one. So.
Well, the big thing for me with the Bucks is this: Holiday's out. Holiday is positive for COVID. He's out. So it just shows you that the trade made sense.
Yeah.
That they needed Holiday. They didn't lose a ton of people that were going to make an impact in that Holiday trade. They lost draft picks. So this shows that Holiday is worth the trade was worth it, because their offense is stagnant right now without him in there.
It's very apparent. Yeah.
How long is he going to be out? Who knows? Some players come back quickly. I think it all depends on his symptoms, and if it's kind of an asymptomatic COVID or this and that. I'm not going to get into all that, because it's just there's just too many questions out there about it. But I'm not too concerned. They'll make the playoffs. Again, I'm not worried about them whether they win the conference, regular season conference title.
Right.
It's like, I don't care about that. I mean, they're going to be 16-13, I think, and then nobody's really separating themselves from the pack in the East. So they just got to make the playoffs. They got to be playing well when the playoffs come. They do need to make a trade. They need to get a third scorer, I think, on their roster. Middleton,
I think absolutely they have to. Yeah.
Middleton's a nice piece, but
he's looked pretty bad during this stretch, and he's gotten shut down. What the Raptors did to him.
And that's the thing.
They've pretty much shut him down in these games if he's got to be the scorer, the man,
and that's the thing. This is showing that he's not that second person, or even a third person that can help lift the Bucks when one of those other two guys has an off night. Every now and then he'll go off, which is great. A lot of players can do that. They need a consistent scorer. So I would not be surprised if the Bucks make a trade before the trade deadline. I don't know who they're going to get, but they need a third scorer if they really truly want to be contenders. So we'll see about that. Other than that, I mean, nothing really happened in the NBA. I am curious to see the fallout of this story. Unless do you have anything else on the Bucks?
Well, no, I was just gonna say for the NBA, the listener was talking about Toronto. Just because that I think he's from Toronto. It sounds like he's got a thing about the Blue Jays here. He's talking about Kyle Lowry and what would happen there.
My opinion is like the Raptors are, the Raptors can make the playoffs. It's the East. The East isn't deep. It's never been deep. But the Raptors, I think, are a smart franchise. They're going to look at the overall and basically say, are we close to winning a championship with Kyle Lowry on our team? My answer would be no. Yes, you beat the Bucks now two games in a row. But let's be honest. If they have Jrue Holiday, they aren't losing those games.
Yeah.
Period. When it comes to playoffs, you hope Holiday's back. I think you can get a lot for Lowry. Now will they trade him to somebody in the East? I don't know. Sometimes they will. They will. But if I'm a team like Milwaukee, again, I've said this. I go and I mortgage the next, the other opposite 3 first-round draft picks for the next 6 years now, as far as I have Giannis under contract for, and get a guy.
Right.
I mean, if you're offering 3 first-round draft picks, you can get just about whoever you want. Or to offer 2 first-round draft picks and Chris Middleton, you can get basically anybody. So, I think the Raptors will be a playoff team, I think. But I don't see them making a deep run in the playoffs. I think the top half of the East is too good.
Yeah.
And
a few teams that are on the top. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna overreact to the Bucks losing streak yet. Now, if they drop below 500, Holiday comes back and they're still not playing well, then I might be concerned. But if that happens, then we have the NBA coaching hot seat coming up. Budenholzer might get the boot because
right, and I think that might be the case. I mean, if they can't make a run and sustain this, because I mean, the point for the Bucks was to win a title, to get to that point, and if they aren't getting there, then what are the issues and where are they going to go with it? So
right.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked a little bit about that. I mean, I think we're just kind of talking through what the listener had asked about, and I just wanted to touch on the NBA a little bit. But I'm not sure where the Bucks are going to go, but I honestly think, like you said, Coach, I think they need another piece. And I think it's pretty apparent if you lose somebody like this, and this is how you're struggling when you don't have them, then it's pretty apparent to me that you need another piece there. So
yeah, exactly. And it'll happen. It'll happen. The trade deadline's not for, I'm not sure when it actually is. I think it's like another month or so. So it'll happen. But the story I want to touch on here quick, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Lone Wolf. Adam Silver ignoring his superstars and said, this is what he says, NBA holding the All-Star game is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'd seen that earlier, and I'm a little surprised by this. I mean, not totally, but a little bit, just because Adam Silver lately has been cracking down a little bit more on this kind of stuff and not following that sort of it's the NBA and we're going to do things a little differently than other leagues. And we had that whole national anthem issue in Dallas, and then he came out and said, nope, you have to play the national anthem. And now he comes out and says this. It's almost like he's reminding them, hey, I'm in charge, and this is what we're going to do. And the players don't run the league. The owners, any individual owner doesn't run the league. I'm in charge.
I get that, like the anthem thing. I think is the smart thing to do. That this though, like you said, you made a comment that he tries to make the NBA. We're not like other leagues,
right?
Which is what he's doing, because all the other leagues didn't, like the NFL didn't play their Pro Bowl. I highly doubt that Major League Baseball is going to play their All-Star game. I'd be shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just the risk in my mind outweighs the reward here.
Right.
And by him just coming out and saying that, though, instead of saying, okay, we'll listen to some thoughts and some ideas, but we want to have an all-star game. I think that'd be okay. How about, and again, I don't think we've ever found out if there's an opt-out clause.
Yeah.
If there's an opt-out clause and they want to do this, I'm okay with it then, because then the guys that want to play can play. The guys that don't want to risk it don't have to risk it. And everybody can say, oh, it's one more game. It's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal, because it's one more time you're going on the court with superstars. So let's say a superstar during that All-Star, right before the All-Star game, contracts COVID, doesn't know it, plays that game, and now infects every single superstar in the NBA.
Right.
Are fans going to want to watch that basketball? That's going to be some brutal basketball then.
No, I just, so my comments at the beginning, I think, are more just an observation about what is taking place. My opinion on it is that this is the absolute wrong thing to do. He says it feels like the right thing to do. His words, that's an exact quote. I don't know how it feels like the right thing to do. This is something you can easily cancel and not worry about, and that's where I think if you want fans to watch your sport, you have to take those things into consideration. And right now, most people probably don't think it's the right thing to do. Your superstars are telling you that they don't think it's the right thing to do, and I get it. You're the league office. You don't follow what your players tell you all the time. That's not what you're going to do. You can't just let the players run the league. That's not how it works. But this isn't really helping your sport by having this all-star game. If a lot of those superstars don't play, what's the point of an all-star game if all stars aren't playing?
Right.
That makes no sense.
But I mean, you look at the NFL and, Pro Bowl, guys opt out of that all the time.
Yeah.
So, that.
I think the NFL did the right thing by moving the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl, because they had moved it there, and they had it there before, and then they moved it to before the Super Bowl because they wanted to actually generate something from it. And it's just basically a free vacation, whatever they're doing it. It's just guys go off and they do that. I mean, sorry, it's after the Super Bowl. So
the Pro Bowl is before the Super Bowl now.
Oh, now it's before. Sorry,
because the losing team plays right away.
Right.
But anyways, so it's going to be interesting not that fallout. I really think it's going to be interesting. I think Adam Silver is starting to, all throughout the COVID thing and stuff, I thought he was spot on with stuff, and now he's kind of, I don't know. He's been, and maybe it's because they're trying to make up some lost revenue.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
But at the same time, putting players in danger of being out could hurt your league more in the long run than just saying, you know what, we're not going to do an all-star game. We'll have some sort of all-star festivities, things like that, but we're not going to actually play a game. But Who are we, Lone Wolf? Who are we? We're just lonely podcasters that don't know anything.
I think that a lot of people would agree with this opinion here, Coach. I'm just saying. If it is a revenue issue, then that's just kind of shameless trying to money grab for something. If you think
and they're never gonna come out and say that, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that leagues are going to find any way to make up lost revenue from COVID.
Right.
I mean, that's going to happen. Which is going to lead into the first NFL story I want to talk about.
Okay.
There's three, I think, big stories in the NFL right now that could impact our team, the Green Bay Packers. Two out of the three, anyways. And then one is the continuing dominoes that the
other quarterback trades that are
started. The first one, I think the most intriguing one, is the NFL is raising the salary cap to a minimum of $180 million, and it could go higher. Now, what that does is that helps the Packers out. They restructured Bakhtiari's contract. There's talk that they're going to extend Rodgers, which would reduce his cap number. They could restructure numerous contracts,
right,
or extend out contracts, and create. I think all the moves that I looked at and I read about, they can easily create about $25 million in cap space without like cutting maybe like Preston Smith. Which, if you're going to cut Preston Smith and get J.J. Watt, that's an upgrade.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah.
And the rumor, the stuff that I'm reading is that J.J. Watt, it's really between Pittsburgh and Green Bay, and it's not about money. It's about winning. Well, right. I'm sorry, you don't want to be in Pittsburgh then. They don't even know who their quarterback's going to be next year, because their GM doesn't know if they even want Ben Roethlisberger as their quarterback.
No, I mean, his comments about Roethlisberger were like, well, he's on the team right now, and I don't really know what's going to happen in the future. It was not very committal. Let's put it that way. It's kind of like, you talk to somebody and you're like in a relationship, but you talk to somebody else and you're kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, we've gone on a few dates or something. I wouldn't really call it a relationship.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what it felt like.
Right.
Like, hey, maybe you're really not committed to this person here,
So that increase of the cap when it was supposed to shrink, right, definitely is going to help the Packers and help a couple other teams.
I think there's quite a few teams that were going to be impacted by the cap being that way.
And we already
175, and now with it going up, that's going to increase the ability for a lot of teams to.
And there's talk it still could go to 185 million. Yeah. Another 5 million more, so that'd be 10 million. So the Packers would only be about 14 million over the salary cap then. Well,
right.
To be honest, everybody, 14 million over the cap isn't hard to fix. You move some money around in contracts, and people don't understand that. People say, well, the Packers don't have the cap space to sign J.J. Watt. You don't have to be under the cap right now. You don't have to be under the cap until you have your 53-man roster. You can be $100 million over the cap right now if you want.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
it doesn't matter right now.
You just have to be at that cap number when we get to that 53-man roster, like you said, and that's not until end of August or beginning of September or whatever that day is. But yeah.
So they have plenty of time to rework contracts and get that taken out. I think if J.J. Watt truly wants to win, he'll sign with the Packers. That would solidify that front. You would have J.J. Watt, Zadarius Smith, and then Kenny Clark up front. That's pretty darn good.
That's a great rotation, plus some other guys that can come in, to spell those guys here and there.
You need to get rid of Kirksey. which that right there would save multiple millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
And
it was an experiment. It was,
it didn't work.
A patent system. It didn't work. He was injured as he has been too much throughout his career. So
Amos is a good safety. They need to find a second safety, I still think. And I think they're solid at corner. I don't, you're gonna let King walk. You're not gonna re-sign him.
No.
You
maybe that's a draft pick.
You let and oh my Lord, I talked to a couple people I know about Aaron Jones, and when I said don't re-sign him, they flipped out.
Yeah.
Everybody, he is in a two-back system. Two-back system. He is not going to get top money, and he turned down a contract offer. Now people are saying that it was about the guaranteed money. I don't care. The guaranteed money could have been worked out if he was happy with the years and the amount of money the contract was, and it wasn't just the guaranteed part of it. He would have agreed in principle, and they would have worked out the guaranteed money. But instead, he rejects the offer and then he fires his agent. That tells me he wants more money.
That's exactly what it says. And the Packers aren't going to be able to give him the money that he wants. So
even if
I love him as a player. I think he's great, but you can't pay a guy that kind of money if you want to have a championship team when you're already trying to put some other pieces in place to win this thing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the rumor is that James White wants to come and sign with the Green Bay Packers. You can get him for less than half the price of Aaron Jones, and you get a better receiver out of the backfield that's more durable.
Right.
I'm sorry. Aaron Jones got hit hard and was out the rest of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
You can't have that in a running back. That you can't.
Yeah. Well, and I like what the Packers had done with him, but like you said, they've got some other options in their system, and if they do bring another back in, they just need to have a running game that provides the ability to, one, stretch the field with some of the running backs, which they're able to do because they can split some of those guys out wide. They've got a guy that can pound the ball inside, and they need to spell Aaron Rodgers enough to keep teams honest, and then he can carve them up either in play action or just on his own. So, I mean, this isn't total rocket science, and I think if you look at it, he's expendable in comparison to some other players on the team. Like I said, I love him as a player, but from a business standpoint, he's expendable.
But I think with the increase of cap space, you can restructure some contracts, you either go to Preston Smith and say, hey, you need to rework your deal or you're gone. You sign JJ Watt, you re-sign Lindsley on the O line, and then you go build through the draft. You can get a good receiver or linebacker where you're drafting in the first round this year. I think it'll be okay. I really do. And people are
those are really team needs.
Everybody forgets we do have a receiver that didn't play this year.
Yeah.
Devin Funchess. He signed a 1-year deal and didn't play, so that means he's still under contract next season. People,
right.
Don't forget that he is a decent receiver.
He is. I agree.
He would have made a difference this year.
Oh, absolutely. He was definitely. And I mean, we talked about that when he signed. I said he was a top pick. It didn't work out with the Panthers, but the Panthers, it wasn't going to work out. Their pass game, it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
So you bring him into a system like this. I mean, he would have been a huge target down by the goal line. Yes, you had 18 touchdowns with Devontae Adams, but Devin Funchess would have been another guy who would have added an element there that I think the Packers could have desperately needed.
And I think Tunyon will get he's a restricted free agent. They'll match any offer unless it's just an ungodly offer.
An absurd offer.
But he'll be back with the Packers. I don't think they're gonna let him go. He's really blossomed. I think you can see like Jay Sternberger be traded. There's going to be some moves. Some of these backup guys like Lowry and those guys, they will be gone.
Yeah, Lowry's going to be gone. Yeah, I agree.
Because their cap number is like, it's not huge. It's not like $4 or $5 million, but it's like $1 to $2 million each. Well,
right.
They're not worth that much.
No, you start adding it up.
They haven't proven they're worth that money. It's time to move on from those guys.
Right.
So you move on, you save some money, and you build for the here and the now. And that's the thing. The sports these days are not about 2-3 years down the road. You know, back when the Packers in the '80s, when the Packers stunk, it was you draft, you build for a couple years down the road. Not anymore. You build for the here and the now.
Yeah.
You don't worry about 2 years down the road.
Especially if you actually have a chance of winning a championship. I mean, really, the Packers are a couple plays away from being in the Super Bowl. You know, and so that's 2 years in a row where you're in the NFC Championship game. You know, you have a team where you put a couple other pieces in place, you retool a little bit. You should be right back in the same position again for this year.
And you should be. Your division's not getting any better.
No. I mean, the Bears still have no quarterback, so I really don't know exactly what they're going to do there. The Lions are going to be god awful.
Oh, the Lions are going to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But they're going to bite your knees off.
That's right. That's debatable on the worst team, but I mean
they're going to be the worst team. I
go with one of the worst.
Lone Wolf, I will make a bet with you that the Lions are the worst team in the league next year.
Okay. All right.
We'll have to figure out. We'll have to figure out something for next year, and like put a bet down and like see whoever has the worst predictions pays up. Because the Lions are going to be bad. The Lions are.
Yeah, I no doubt, no question.
Bad.
They're going to be awful. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that leads that we just covered two of the stories I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the salary cap, and I want to talk about J.J. Watt. I mean, they're talking about he should go to Tampa, he should go to Kansas City.
None of those are really good fits for him. I don't know why people would, I mean, I get because they're winners and he's later in his career, but
here's the thing. The one thing that people don't understand, J.J. Watt is not a typical player.
Right.
Family is very important to him. His wife works in Chicago. And then there's some people who are like, he's going to sign with the Bears. Why would you sign with the Bears? If you want to win?
You want to win a championship, so that's
the Bears aren't even close.
Yeah.
But his family's from Pewaukee.
Yep.
It makes the most sense to sign with the Packers.
Right. I mean, the only allure for the Steelers is the fact that
his
brothers playing there. Right.
Which I bet his brothers are probably starting to think, I want out of here, because especially if Big Ben isn't here, we're going to be god awful.
Yeah. I mean, that was proven when Ben was gone and Mason Rudolph was the starting quarterback. So yeah, I don't know if he'd necessarily want to play with them, and not that he doesn't like them or anything. Obviously, that relationship is there, but to me it makes the most sense. There was some talk about potentially ending up in Cleveland. That made, to me though, this is funny, Coach, when you said it. To me, that fit made more sense than going to Kansas City.
Well, yeah,
Tampa.
And I agree, but when you look at it, the opportunity to get to a Super Bowl, it's a lot less in the AFC.
I agree.
I understand the Tampa Bay beat the Chiefs, but let's be honest. Again, I said it last week. I'm saying it this week. This year was rigged by the NFL to have Tom Brady win again. The ref calls the last 2 weeks in the NFC Championship and Super Bowl proved it. That was a rigged job. You can't prove it, but I think 95% of sane fans understand
Would agree.
what happened.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm bold enough to say it. I don't care.
Yep.
So Kansas City's still the team to beat in the AFC, and they're going to be. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have that offense. They're not losing anybody on offense. Their defense isn't going to get much better, but their offense is going to be unbelievable.
Right.
Cleveland, if you're sticking with Mayfield at quarterback, you might make it to the divisional round of the playoffs again, but that's about it.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm sorry you're not winning a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback.
So, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That down the line, but it's going to be interesting to see when how long JJ Watt actually takes to make a decision. There is no real hurry for him to make the decision.
No, not at all.
And to be honest, I bet he kind of already knows where he wants to go.
He may have already kind of made that and up in his own mind. Sure.
Right, and I really think that, his agent is he probably told his agent, hey, these are the teams that I would truly consider. If they're interested, let's try to work something out, and move forward. So, but what does this tell you? And this blows my mind. The Houston Texans they're not going to be the worst team in the league, but they're the worst run team in the league now. They're worse. This is
if Deshaun Watson isn't there and
you
JJ Watt is gone.
You release JJ Watt and say, well, that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He wanted to be released. Why don't you say, hey, we'll get you out of here, but we want to get something in return. We'll trade you. What are teams where would you prefer to go? And at least get a 3rd round draft pick for him. Something.
I mean, right now, this organization, to me, as from top to bottom, appears to be the worst run organization in the league. I mean, we talked about the Lions, and I agree. But the way the Lions went about how they were, conducting their coaching search and their GM search, and how they made this trade and everything, I think it tells me that they were trying to do things the right way. Maybe they got their decisions wrong. But Houston is just doing things that make no sense from a standpoint of trying to build a winner. What are you doing? You bring in a coach who's never been a coach, never been a head coach. He's been a coach for a long time, but why has he been in all of these secondary roles for so long? And you put him as your head coach, and then you hire a GM who was in the Patriot way when all of your players are saying, we don't want the Patriot way. All of them. I mean, maybe there's one guy in the locker room who's like, this is fine. But I doubt it. I really doubt it. So they're just making these boneheaded decisions. And then, like you just said, Coach, you let J.J. Watt walk. Trade him for a draft pick. At least get something out of the deal.
Something, even a 7th round draft pick, for crying out loud.
Who cares? Just get a draft pick.
Yeah. And and the Deshaun Watson thing is, they keep saying that they're not trading him. Right. If you don't trade him, he's sitting out.
He's already said that.
I mean,
what do you hope to accomplish by doing that? You're alienating fans and you're alienating him. Every single day this goes on, it just gets worse.
But he did say he does not want to play for the Jets, which fine. I get it. Why,
Yeah, well, sure.
I'm going to root for the Jets because I like Robert Saleh, but I won't want to play for him. If I was able to choose,
right,
I wouldn't want to play for him. Now, if I'm Houston, I just take the best deal. I don't know if he has a no trade clause or he can void say no.
He does. Yeah.
So then you're kind of limited. But then I go to Miami. If you say no to the Jets, you go to Miami and say, hey, give us your whatever 1st round pick you have in Tua, and we'll give you Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Well, they're probably going to get another pick out of that than just that. I think.
I don't know. I don't know. And guess what? This leads into the final story. Carson Wentz. So you have a team that gives a lot for Matt Stafford, and the Lions. They I think they picked the wrong deal. But again, I'm not. Again, they
got some draft picks.
But they got enough there. I just don't think it's going to end up being great draft picks. That's my thing. If you traded them to an already good team.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Philadelphia Eagles trade Carson Wentz, which we anticipate, and I called it. He was going to the Indianapolis Colts. Yep. He's in Indianapolis, and the Colts steal him from the Eagles. They stole him from the Eagles. They only had to give up their 3rd-round draft pick and a conditional 2nd-round draft pick, which could turn into a 1st-rounder, depending on how Carson Wentz plays.
I love this because I have seen opinions that are, this is horrible and Carson Wentz isn't going to be that good. And I have seen, I think this is the right fit, but I haven't heard anybody say that this was a steal.
This is a steal. Because
I know. I'm just saying I haven't heard any. So this is interesting because I
think about this, Lone Wolf. Think about this. You give up your 3rd-round draft pick, possibly a late 1st-rounder in 2022. Because if Carson Wentz turns out and plays really well, it'll be between 25 and 32. Right.
Yeah, and I think he has to play 75% of the snaps in order for them to get that pick. I think it's something
for the conditional, to make it a 1st-rounder. But here's how the Colts can really put the bolts to the Eagles. Late in games, you take them out. You have a statistician up there saying, okay, where's he at? Oh, he's at 74.9. Get him out of the game.
just to put the screws to him and get him.
I mean, seriously. And the worst they're going up is a 2nd and a 3rd this year and a 2nd next year for possibly a quarterback that could lead you deep into the playoffs because he's being rejoined with the coach that put him to the level he was at before all this stuff happened.
Right.
I think this is a steal.
I'll tell you one reason why I agree with you, and that is who's the team that's getting hit on the cap in this situation?
The Eagles.
Right.
$33.8 million dead cap hit.
That's, to me, that's probably the biggest steal out of the whole thing. I think that dead cap space that Philly's eating, you want to talk about teams that aren't going to be very good next year. Philadelphia is going to be awful next year.
There are going to be some really bad football teams in the NFL next year.
Yeah, and that's one of them.
Really bad.
You're relying on Jalen Hurts, who, admittedly, I mean, it's not really going to be his fault. The supporting cast all the way across the board in Philadelphia is going to be bad because they're going to do a lot of house cleaning, and you really can't rebuild based on what you gave in this Wentz trade. You only have a 3rd-round pick this year that you're getting out of the deal, so. Yeah, you're not rebuilding off of that. But I think this is a good marriage. This is how I look at it. Wentz is going to a place, really, to me, the only place where he can succeed, the most chance of success is here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if he doesn't work out here, honestly, he's going to be out of the league, I think.
Yeah, if Frank Reich can't kind of resurrect Carson Wentz, he's done.
Right.
He's done. That's just the way it is. You know, the thing is, Indianapolis was the only place that he could go to resurrect his career.
Yeah.
I don't think any other team would have been able to do anything remotely close to what Frank Reich can do in Indianapolis. Here's the thing. One of the best offensive lines in the league. In Philadelphia, even when they won the Super Bowl, that offensive line wasn't that good.
No.
Their defense was unbelievable that year.
Yeah, their defense played so well. Yeah.
So Indianapolis has a great offensive line, and they have a running game, and they have a solid defense.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like tailor made for this thing to work. And yes, I said that on purpose. It's a really horrible joke. I know. Jonathan Taylor's the running back there. It's terrible. I know. Okay. Yep. Big groan from anybody that listens to the show. I get it. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, they've all the pieces in place, and I heard this statistic earlier. The Colts had given up 19 sacks last year, and the Eagles had given up 50.
Oof.
So
it's
pretty brutal. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
So, but yeah, the AFC is going to be an interesting talk next year, because I'll tell you what, Dolphins should be pretty good. The Bills will be good again.
Yep.
The Browns will be good. The Baltimore Ravens will be good. You got the Colts are going to be good. The Titans will be good. The Chiefs will be good.
The Chargers
are going to be good.
Better. I think they could be good here, you know.
But then you go to the NFC.
Yeah.
Seattle should be good, but
maybe
Russell Wilson might not be there.
Right.
The Rams will
There's
be
so
good.
many question marks across the board with the NFC.
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
So many. Besides the Buccaneers and the South, who's going to be good?
Right.
Nobody. I don't care what the Saints have. They don't have a quarterback.
Right. That makes all the difference. Yeah. Carolina's still rebuilding. Atlanta's, retooling and or rebuilding.
Well, Atlanta just cut some players.
Yeah, they cut a couple of guys for cap space. So I mean, that's
so it's like, it's like.
So they're really not in a position. I mean, none of those teams. You're right. Outside of the Buccaneers, there's really nobody in. And the East, well, I mean,
the Cowboys should be. If you re-sign Dak Prescott, you should be. They should be the best team in that league, that division. Not saying they're going to go anywhere in the playoffs.
No, it's still Mike McCarthy, so we have to temper our expectations.
They should win. They should win the East hands down.
Right.
You go to the West.
I don't think they'll be great.
It'll be Seattle and the Rams. I don't think the 49ers are going to be very good. Even if they get a different quarterback, I don't know who they're going to get now.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a big question mark.
Can they get Deshaun Watson? I don't know. I don't know if they have enough draft capital to get him.
Right.
Because the thing with and here's the thing with Houston. If they can play hardball with Deshaun Watson, just like he's playing hardball with them, and say, because here's the thing, if he sits, he doesn't accrue years on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
So he's stuck.
Right.
So Houston can sit there and go to San Francisco and say, yeah, we want 3 first-round draft picks and Joey Bosa or somebody else. We want one of your stud defensive players.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No, definitely not.
So that'll be interesting. And then you go to the NFC North, Green Bay.
Right.
Minnesota will be okay. They'll be around that 500, maybe try to get into that playoff spot. But the Bears are not going to be good.
No, they don't have a quarterback.
The Lions are going to be brutal.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting. That's why I really think JJ Watt's going to go to the Packers. The NFC is where is the, I'm not going to say easiest, but there's more of an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl in the NFC than the AFC. Because you could be a really good team and not make the playoffs in the AFC.
Right. I think you're going to see that same dynamic from this year play out in the next season. You got a 10-6 team that doesn't make the postseason in the AFC. You're going to see that same thing in the AFC next year. Whereas, in the NFC, really, we just went through them. There's only a handful of teams, and honestly, out of those teams, you're going to have maybe 3 teams that are really good, and then you're going to have a bunch of teams that really are kind of not. I mean, the Cowboys, like you said, they might be better, but they might win that division at 9-7, and that's it.
The only teams in the NFC right now, today, that I think could make the Super Bowl, the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Rams. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. I agree. I don't see anybody else, honestly. Right at the moment. Now, we haven't gotten the draft and free agents and everything like that. But
again, that's why I said today.
Right now,
it can easily change, but this is the NFC is not a very strong league right now,
right?
And I don't see it getting much stronger anytime soon.
So who do you think? So you look at quarterbacks. Who do you think is the next domino to fall, so to speak, when it comes to these trades? Because we've talked about some of the big names, and we've kind of skirted around the Jimmy Garoppolos, the Sam Darnolds, some of these other guys who are they going to be in those homes come start of the season next year?
I think because now that Deshaun Watson has publicly come out and said he does not want to play for the Jets, I think Sam Darnold will get traded. I don't like I said, I'm not a big fan of drafting a quarterback high. And when you look at these quarterbacks that are going to go, I don't think they're going to be good NFL quarterbacks. So I would rather keep Sam Darnold and trade back and get some more draft picks and build. But I think what the Jets will do is they'll trade Sam Darnold on draft day and draft either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, whichever one that Urban Meyer doesn't want.
Right.
Because he likes both of them, supposedly. So
I think that's a mistake. I mean, we talked about this. The Redskins drafted Chase Young, and they seem to me to get the better end of the deal as far as that's concerned. And I know they still don't have a quarterback, so to speak. I mean, they may go with Taylor Heineke. I don't know, but they're probably going to try to sign a veteran. Either way, I think drafting at that number 2 spot, if you get a guy who is going to be a stud, this is the opportunity, especially if it's a defensive player.
Well, if you're the Jets, you could easily draft back.
Yeah, you could.
Pick up an extra draft pick or 2,
right,
and still get a very good player that's going to be an impact player for a decade.
And let someone else
mess up and draft a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk draft more, but I don't think either one of those quarterbacks is going to be great in the NFL.
No. So I think Sam Darnold could be traded here. I think Teddy Bridgewater is getting traded. After all the stuff I'm reading this week, for some odd reason, the Panthers have soured on him like old milk. I don't get it. I thought he played actually fairly well for not having anything on the offensive side of the ball to do it.
I mean, with McCaffrey going down, that offense was severely limited.
So So and they're gonna try to package him with some picks to try to get like a Deshaun Watson or another quarterback. But if I'm Houston, I'm not taking that.
No,
The, Houston's asking for a king's ransom, which
they are.
that's their prerogative.
Right.
Um, you know, I don't know. I think I again we'll get more into draft, but like my philosophy would be, I get he is a stud quarterback in the league. And he's going to be for a long time, but if he's unhappy
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to cause my organization problems, and I can't repair that, you need to trade him and you need to get what you can for him and not sit there and say, well, too bad. Unless we get this, we're not trading him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we threw this out last week. Aaron Rodgers for Deshaun Watson.
Straight up.
Straight up.
Yep.
You know, I mean, the Rodgers. It's not that Rodgers isn't happy in Green Bay, but I mean,
Right.
you can get a guy that's about 8 years younger. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
so it's not going to happen. But you know, it's fun to talk about.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that, you know, they're talking about 5 quarterbacks drafted early in the draft.
Yeah.
I do like, you know, the Trey Lance kid from North Dakota. I don't think he's a high first round draft pick though. It's somebody I'd probably take in the second or third round.
Yeah.
But
And I think you can have something like that where you can find somebody who's in the later first round, or who fits your system, or who is able to come in and sit for a year, or you get a guy in the second round that works out. I mean, it just feels like, lately these high first rounders, so far out of the three main high first round draft picks that we have, I'd say we have one out of three who you could call an NFL starter. Because I don't, Tua definitely is not. I think that is just, that ship has sailed. Miami's already looking to deal him. That whole thing hasn't worked out. And Joe Burrow, the jury's out on that. I don't care what people say. He's not what I'd say a bona fide NFL starter yet, and only Justin Herbert has really proved anything to me so
yeah,
far.
yeah, you know, and Joe Burrow may be, you know,
Maybe.
the knee injury hurts, and now it's going to be how well does he come back from that knee injury. Um, we'll see. You know, like Mac Jones, I'm not buying that Mac Jones is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
You have the best running back and two of the best receivers and probably the best offensive line in the league.
Right.
Let's be honest, Lone Wolf. Me and you could have been behind that offensive line in Alabama this year, and we could have won the national championship.
I mean, probably. I mean, I'm not horrible, but
Yeah. I'm just saying
no, I know
that's how good that Alabama team was
it was
offensively.
loaded.
You could have put anybody back at quarterback, and they would have won the national championship this year.
I just think it's tough because people get enamored with someone when they play well, when they play for a team that is stacked with a bunch of talent, and
Right.
and I see that, and it's like he goes out and he gets in the pros. I'm wary of that. They've had some other Alabama quarterbacks recently that have come into the league and it hasn't worked out. So,
But it's just like, you know, um, Ohio State, great college quarterbacks. Not saying they're not good, but they're not
right.
pros.
Well, none of them have been. So
You know,
none of them have been great pros. None. So this is just another one in the long line. I mean, everybody wants to think that this next guy is different, and everybody wants to say Justin Fields is different, but I don't think so. Here we go again. You can put up 6 touchdowns against a bad college team, or even a good one, but that's not the pros. That is not the pros. There's
right.
a huge gap between Justin Fields beating up on Clemson, who's a good college team, obviously, and him doing the same thing to any NFL defense. So,
yeah, and don't sit there and say, "Well, look at Lamar Jackson." I'm sorry. Look what happened in the playoffs again.
yeah.
It's just
A definite step back this year all the way around for him.
the running. I don't care how much you run or this and that. You gotta be a pocket quarterback in the NFL, a mobile quarterback, but a pocket quarterback. You gotta be able to stand in that pocket and throw. You can't just run around and then chuck the ball down the field like college. And because guys aren't running wide open all the time.
No, you have to have the ability to make precision throws in the NFL. And you see guys that can't because you're running precise routes and putting the ball in a spot. And if you can't do that consistently, you won't be successful in the NFL. He had some short-term success with that sort of running, but it doesn't last over the long haul. It just doesn't.
Okay, so I want to correct myself a little bit here. So going back to the salary cap, I said it doesn't have to be. They don't have to be under the salary cap until August. No, the top 51 contracts on the roster need to be under the cap by March 17th.
Oh, okay, all right. So we were wrong there. Yeah, okay.
But they do have some unused cap space they can carry over from 2020. So I think they'll be okay. There's just an article I just saw. So players that are in danger, they're talking about extending Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, which makes sense. They probably will do that.
Yeah.
Which is going to save them cap space. They're talking about this isn't going to happen. Releasing Zadarius Smith and Adrian Amos and Mason Crosby and Billy Turner.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
None of those four guys are getting cut. If they cut any of those four, I'll be shocked. Preston Smith, he can probably be gone. Rashawn Gary played so much better than Preston Smith this year. So wouldn't be shocked there. Kirksey, yeah, I think everybody is saying Kirksey's gone. He's gone. That's right. $6 million in cap space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
he's done.
What you saw there didn't really inspire a whole lot of confidence for him to still be around. So
right. Dean Lowry, they would gain 3.3 if they cut him right now, but if they designate him to be a post June 1st cut, they'd gain 4.8. So that's what they would do. Right. And with Kiki and Lancaster playing better than Lowry, he's gone.
Yeah, there's no reason to keep him. Yeah.
Rick Wagner, if they cut him at any time, it's a $4.25 million savings. He's probably gone. Unless he wants to take a pay cut. So you're talking right there. That's 4.25, 4.8. There's 9, 6. There's 15, and then that's just with those few right there. And then if you restructure, I forgot about Preston Smith. There's another 8.
Right.
And then it'd be 12 if they would designate him a post June 1st release. So right there, you're saving over $20-some million just by those. That puts you under the cap.
Yep.
Enough to sign JJ Watt. And then if you extend Rodgers and Adams, that reduces their cap number. You're going to be able to go and sign some people.
Right.
So
I think we're looking at signing somebody else outside of just Watt. So
and I think Watt will take less money to win. I think the Packers are going to be fine. I really do. They do need to sign Alexander to an extension also, which
right.
they'll do.
Absolutely, you can't walk without not doing that.
But
He's your best
but
defender on the team.
and there's been some rumblings too that they may tag Lindsley to give him a transition tag,
Sure.
which would keep him around for at least another year. Um, which wouldn't be a horrible thing. And just you just go to them and say, hey, we're going to tag you this year because we want to make a run at it this year, and then we'll let you go, test the waters next year. And I think he'd be okay with that. I think he has
I think so.
I think he
Players
has good enough.
want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think he has a good enough relationship with the organization that he wouldn't balk at that.
I think he would stick around and
because
not have a problem with that.
all you have to, and this is what I would do. If obviously Guttenson wasn't there when this happened, but if I'm Murphy, if I'm the president of the Packers, I sit down with Lindsley and say, here's the deal. Look at all these guys that developed with us that thought they were going to greener pastures for more money.
Right.
Their careers died. What big time offensive lineman that has left the Packers in the last 4 or 5 years that has continued to have
Taken
great
off
success?
somewhere else. Right.
The guy, what's his name that went to Detroit?
Yeah, TJ Lang or
Lang, horrible now.
Josh
I
Sitton.
mean, the
All
guys
these guys. Yeah.
they're not in the league anymore.
Right.
So it's like you can go, but history shows
it's probably not going to work out for you.
The chance of you being as successful somewhere else is not there. Now it doesn't mean it. And if we lose Lindsley, again, I said it before. If you lose him, it's not the end of the world. They got some young offensive linemen that are going to be good.
I would want to keep him for this year.
Well, yeah, I'm saying so would I. But I'm saying if you lose him, if he says no, I want my money.
Yeah, you can't
break the bank because of one guy.
Right. No, you
again, then we're getting right back into the Tatis argument here. Of, spending money on one guy. I get it. He's one of the best centers in the league, but you can't overpay just to make sure he's on your roster. And then every year you're cutting guys.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford people. Well, eventually you're only going to have 4 or 5 guys worth a damn on your roster.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way, and I think when it comes to the offensive line, they need to maintain that integrity there. So I'd prioritize a guy like him over somebody else. But I agree, you can't go out there and say, okay, you want to be the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. That's not going to happen. So here's what we can do for now. And I agree with you. I think stick it out for this year, and he should be amenable to that. And if you want to go test the free agent waters next year, you go for it. But I think you have to look at it as a player, and I think he's hopefully smart enough to see this is a team that has a chance to win the whole thing. So yeah, you could probably potentially get some more money somewhere else, but go for a championship, man. Come on. Just do the right thing.
Well, and there's a guy that the Packers picked up at the end of the year and during the playoffs, Jared Valdir, who's pretty good lineman. He played for the Titans and got released. He was technically designated off the practice squad, so that's how the Packers could brought him in the second round of the playoffs. He couldn't play because he ended up being put on the COVID list.
Right.
But there's a reason you pick guys like that up. He could be a player that turns into something. You just never know.
Well, I think they've got a lot of prospects and some good options along the offensive line. The Packers as a group obviously do well along the offensive line. They gave up some of the fewest sacks in the league last year. So as long as they keep that unit mostly intact, they should be okay. I think Bakhtiari's injury may have hurt them in the NFC title game a little bit. I mean, the Buccaneers really got after Aaron Rodgers. So, that may have been a factor when that game was played. But, it was really only a factor in that game. I mean, Rodgers did not take a lot of punishment over the course of the season. So
no, and it's just one, I again, we'll see where they prioritize. I sure hope they don't overpay Aaron Jones.
Right.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't
And again,
do it.
I mean, another point about that, running backs in today's NFL generally are expendable as a rule. I mean, this is not the bell cow days of old. And especially if guys or teams, I should say, teams are running a 2-back set or even a 3-back set. There's guys who have skill sets that can fit into those roles that you can use. So
here's the thing. Okay, everybody talks about how great Aaron Jones is. Okay, yeah, he's a good player. He had 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards. Again, I remember when the Packers were trying to become relevant again when Mike Holmgren got hired. He didn't bring in stud running backs.
No,
because I remember some of the interviews he gave. He said 1,000-yard running back isn't really that great. That's averaging like 60 yards a game.
Yeah.
You know how many yards a game Aaron Jones averaged?
What, 62?
78.9.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry, which is great. But Jamal Williams averaged 4.2.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon, yeah, he only had 46 attempts, but he averaged 5.3.
Yeah.
So
you wonder about that a little bit because LaFleur's cut from the same cloth as
Tyler Ervin. Tyler Ervin, lone wolf, had 13 carries and averaged 5.2.
Yeah. Yeah, what I was going to say is my point there is a lot of times, you look at it, and I'm looking at a system. Kyle Shanahan resurrected Raheem Mostert, who that guy is a cast-off from, I believe, Chicago, and he's not that great of a running back. Last time I checked, people, I'm sorry, for the
What does
it's the Raheem Mostert music.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Raheem Mostert, he is that great, says Coach. No, I mean, and so, but it's the Shanahan scheme. It's the way that they're running things, and I think that's what you saw with LaFleur in the system. McCarthy didn't know how to use Aaron Jones, and LaFleur did in the system, and it worked. Aaron Jones is a good player, but he's not a guy who you look at and you say that guy is LaDainian Tomlinson. He's not a back for all generations or anything like that. He's a guy that can be replaced. I like him as a player.
At Cornell College, we are flexible.
Computer. I'm trying to look at stats and it keeps darn bringing up his ad.
We don't want that. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, exactly. That's what you look at there. Like you said, there isn't that back where you're like, oh my Lord. So looking at these stats here, this is telling to me right here. regular season averaged 5.5 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He had, 1,100 yards. But in the playoffs, okay, when you want to be running the football,
Mm-hmm.
he only had 20 carries for 126 yards. Yes, he had 6.3 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
Only one touchdown.
Yeah. Well, and you had better defenses in the
I get that. I get that. But hey, if you are a top 5 paid running back,
yeah.
that's 2 playoff games, Lone Wolf.
Right.
2 playoff games. Sorry. And it is convenient. Wasn't it after he got hit in the NFC Championship game, fumbled, and then the Buccaneers recovered, that he got hurt? That he was out after that?
Yeah, he got
That's
hit,
interesting.
and then the fumble happened, and then he was done for the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That tells me
Yeah.
something. That really tells me something, that he might be a great running back, but I question his toughness,
Mm-hmm.
because a great running back would have been like, this is the NFC Championship game. I'm going back in there, and I don't care if I fumble. Now, Grant, we don't know what's wrong, but if it was a concussion, he wouldn't have been on the sidelines, and he was on the sidelines the entire time.
Right. Yeah. I
So
don't
why
think
didn't
that
he
was
go
the
back
case,
in the
because
game?
you're right. He would have been in protocol, and that would have been it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, I have questions. He is not worth the money, people. He's not worth the amount of money that he wants. Let him
Not
go
for
and
the amount of money
sign.
that we're talking about.
Let him go sign with the New York Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars or any of these other teams that have a boatload of cap space that aren't any good. And let's see how good he is.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. That's the true test, and yeah, that's exactly what could happen. And if he does that, well, yeah, he ain't going to be very good in one of those systems, and it isn't going to
So,
work out well for him. So,
yeah. So that's my opinion on that. And we'll see how, again, we'll see how this all plays out here in a couple of weeks when we start really get going here, because none of this stuff really happens till the new league calendar starts. So everything's all speculation, obviously, but we'll see. Well, Lone Wolf, I guess, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
I did not. The topics that I wanted to cover, we talked about for each of the 3 leagues tonight. So those are the things that I wanted to cover. So,
All right, that I do not have anything else.
okay.
So, one last question. Yeah, I do not have a Beavis comment of the week. There really isn't much out there right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Final question, because we talked about this, but we never got your opinion on what you thought.
Okay.
Does J.J. Watt sign with the Green Bay Packers?
Yes, I think he does, and I think there's a lot of reasons why, like we talked about. But ultimately, he's a guy who is super competitive. You've seen him in Houston's playoff losses when the frustration mounts, when they've had chances, come very close a couple of times to really kind of making a push and then fall short. And I think that stings with him. He's done everything else pretty much in his career. I mean, he earned the nickname JJ Spot for a reason when he's deflecting all those passes. He's had a lot of injuries, and I think he's looking at it and saying, I need a shot at winning a title. what makes the most sense for me to do that, and what matters the most to me personally. And all those factors land him in Green Bay, where the fans will welcome him with open arms. The Packers will make the cap space to make it work. So, yes, I do predict that he will end up in Green Bay.
So, just an interesting side note on this. J.J. Watt is in the same career year as another all-star pass rusher that joined the Green Bay Packers.
Are you going to say Reggie White, perhaps?
I'm saying Reggie White. What happened after the Packers signed Reggie White?
Yeah, I think they might have won a Super Bowl. I don't
know. Won
a
Super Bowl. They had a nice run, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying. Just throwing that one out there because it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. How one player, in their passion for the game,
right,
and to win, boils over into the rest of the players.
I think the nice thing about that is we won't forget about the Sean Jones and the Santana Dotson moves to go along with that, but you already have the Zadarius Smith and the Kenny Clark in place.
Right.
So you just need to bring in the Reggie White player, the J.J. Watt. No, I like the parallel. It's yeah.
So we will see though. We'll see here. Hopefully, it'd be nice to that if he would make it.
I think it'll happen. So
here soon. So we can start putting some pieces together around the league and everything. Because it's only going to get more convoluted as we continue to go on here. As we get closer to March 17th, I think we're going to see some big names hit the free agent market.
Yeah.
Maybe with the Packers. We'll see. But anyways, thank you everybody for that came in. I now just pulled up the chat.
It
was in the chat and that stopped by and listened. And for those that listen via download after we upload this and share it, because those views and downloads are increasing. So things are moving in the right direction for us. So thank you very much. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next time.
Good night.
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. That face wouldn't be doing.
I can't be canceled, there's no way that you can stop me. I'm fully independent, there's no label who can drop me. Y'all been starting rumors, let me help you with some. He's a racist, he's a sexist, he's in love with Donald Trump. Y'all can't cancel me, my life is scandal free. There ain't no sponsors taking losses cause the brand is me. My hands are clean, my family and my fans agree. Y'all